Welcome to the deep dive. I think we all know the feeling. You want to learn something new, but you just don't have the time to wade through all the filler. Well, today we're going to do exactly that. Extract the truly important insights from a pretty unique source. We're going to be looking at excerpts from a travel narrative about the Camino de Santiago. You know, that famous pilgrimage across Spain.
And this isn't just some random travel blog. This is a really powerful story that touches on some very deep personal wisdom about what it really means to be happy.
And that's exactly what we're here to explore today. What can we learn about happiness from this person's experience? And more importantly, how can we apply these lessons to our own lives?
I think one of the things that makes these kinds of personal stories so powerful is that they bring these big ideas down to earth, you know? It's one thing to read about happiness in a textbook, but it's totally different to see how it actually plays out in someone's life. And this story does a really great job of showing how a simple shift in perspective can completely change the way you experience the world.
So let's set the scene here. Our author is on the Camino. They're about halfway through, and things are, well, they're not exactly picture perfect. The reality of the journey is starting to set in. Their knee is killing them, their motivation is kind of wavering, and they haven't even found a place to sleep for the night. Unlike a lot of pilgrims who like to book their lodging way ahead of time, this person prefers to just, go with the flow. And it's actually kind of interesting because, get this, back home in Montreal, they're the type of person who plans everything out to the minute. Every little detail, right down to their morning coffee routine.
Wow, that is quite a contrast. The structured life versus the spontaneous Camino. It really makes you think maybe there was something missing in their life back home, like a longing for something less predictable. But as they quickly find out, this freedom on the Camino, well, it comes with its own set of challenges. By 7:30 p.m., the sun is already starting to set. They've biked 127 kilometers already, and they still haven't found a bed for the night. I mean, just imagine that feeling, like you're exhausted, it's getting dark, and you still don't have anywhere to rest.
Yeah, not exactly a recipe for relaxation, right? So they've been turned away by 7 different places already. Their knee is throbbing, they don't even have lights on their bike, and it's getting harder to see. You can practically feel that knot of anxiety forming. But then, right as the sun is going down and casting these amazing colors across the sky, they see this figure in the distance. A woman, standing alone with a white cane.
Ooh, okay, so now it gets interesting.
It does, right. So our author, they hop off their bike, call out Bon Camino, which is the traditional greeting on the Camino, and they ask her, hey, do you want some company?
It's such a small gesture, but such a human one. And right away, that white cane tells us that this is not your average pilgrim. There's something more to her story. This woman's journey is completely different because she's partially blind. And the fact that she's walking alone, makes it even more powerful. You see, her companions had decided to stop for a beer earlier, and she just kept going on her own. Can you believe that? That just speaks volumes about her strength and determination.
Well, absolutely. And her story is pretty incredible. I mean, she's walking the Camino almost entirely by herself, relying on the kindness of strangers to guide her each day. You have to have so much trust and courage to do something like that. And our author, they don't hesitate for a second. They decide to walk with her to the next town, Nájera. And as they're walking, it gets completely dark. But this woman, she's still navigating the Camino. She's listening to the sounds around her. She's talking to people. She's even sensing the changes in the terrain. It's almost like she's experiencing the world in this completely different way through these heightened senses that most of us never even tap into.
What's striking is how quickly our author's own mood starts to change. As they're walking together in the darkness towards these distant town lights, all that frustration and discouragement from earlier just seems to fade away. They start to feel this sense of calm, this renewed energy, like a weight has been lifted. And it's amazing how simply focusing on someone else's challenges can completely reframe our own problems, I mean, they still haven't found a place to sleep, and it's getting really late. It's 9:35 when they finally find a room. But there's this feeling of shared accomplishment, of relief. They did it together.
It really is a beautiful moment. And the author talks about how much this encounter with the blind woman really changed them. It wasn't just about helping her find her way. It was her resilience, her dignity, the fact that she never once complained, even though her journey was so much harder than anyone else's. I mean, everyone else on the Camino seemed to have something to complain about. Their feet, the weather, the food, even the other pilgrims. But this woman, not a single word of complaint.
It's kind of ironic when you think about it, isn't it? Like, we have this tendency to focus on the little things that annoy us while we completely ignore all the amazing things in our lives, the things we should be grateful for. And that's what this story highlights so beautifully. You have all these people complaining about, blisters and bad coffee, and then you have this woman who's facing a truly immense challenge, and she's just quietly persevering with grace and dignity. It really makes you step back and examine your own perspective. Like, what am I choosing to focus on?
Exactly. And that brings us to the heart of the story. This idea that this blind woman, even though she couldn't see in the traditional sense, she actually possessed a deeper kind of vision. A vision that allowed her to see the world through what the author calls a filter of gratitude. It's like she understood that complaining wouldn't change anything. So instead of dwelling on her limitations, she embraced them. She turned her situation into a source of strength, and that's a completely different way of approaching life's challenges.
This idea of a filter of gratitude is so important. It's like our perception of reality, it's not fixed. It's shaped by the mental lens we choose to look through. And when we consciously choose to focus on what we have instead of what we lack, it changes everything. It changes our feelings, our thoughts, our whole experience of the world. And this woman's journey, her reliance on others, her ability to navigate this ancient path despite her blindness, it must have fostered this incredible sense of gratitude within her, a gratitude for the kindness she received, for the experiences she was still able to have.
It makes you think, doesn't it? Maybe the key to happiness, the kind of happiness this woman clearly embodied, is simply choosing to see the world through a lens of gratefulness and making the most of every situation no matter what. The Camino, it's like this incredible teacher, It strips away all the distractions and forces you to appreciate the simplest things. A warm shower, dry clothes, your health. It's about being grateful for every breath you take.
I love that. It's like a reset button for your whole perspective. And this woman's story just amplifies that message, It shows that even in the face of adversity, even when things are really tough, a deep sense of gratitude can be this incredible source of strength, of joy even.
So what we've learned from this story, from this chance encounter on the Camino, is that choosing to see life through a lens of gratitude is more than just a nice idea. It's a powerful tool that can completely transform your experience and lead to a much deeper sense of happiness, even when you're facing challenges.
It's not about pretending that everything is perfect. It's about acknowledging the good, even when things are hard. And this woman, her journey was clearly difficult, but her attitude, her gratitude, it changed everything for her. And it had this ripple effect, changing the way the author understood happiness as well.
As we wrap up our deep dive into this story, I want you to remember this one key takeaway: the transformative power of gratitude, how it can completely change the way you experience the world and lead you to a deeper sense of happiness.
And that brings us to a really important question for you, the listener. How can you start to cultivate this filter of gratitude in your own life, no matter what your circumstances are? Maybe it's as simple as just noticing the good things that happen each day, the small things we often take for granted.
And here's a final thought for you to ponder. Could practicing gratitude every day, could that change not just your outlook, but your whole experience of the world? Could it open you up to new sources of joy and resilience that you never knew you had?
That's a good question.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Bye-bye.